I've played a lot of first-person shooters. I have 110 on Steam alone. Sure, there's the games everybody knows about, like Halo, Bioshock and Call of Duty. Then there's the lesser-known games like Singularity, Rack and Unloved. But then there's games like Lab, a free Wolfenstein-style FPS that hasn't gotten the recognition I think it deserves. The game is free on itch.io and it's worth checking out. Hell, I've paid for games that are worse than this. It's not just the game that's free either, but the sprites and assets are too. In fact, I found the game when I was looking for placeholder sprites for my own game. So how is Lab? As I said, it's a Wolfenstein game, so expect blocky hallways and grid-based level design. The game is played entirely on a keyboard, which is not ideal, but it works well enough, and the game seems to be designed around this limitation. The monsters are fairly straightforward, being either projectile or melee based, and all can be avoided, with the possible exception of the Mantis boss, whose spread shot is near impossible to dodge. Still, there's a lot of health and ammo around, so even they shouldn't give you too much trouble for long. The weapons are varied and fun to use. There's a pistol, a machine gun, and more exotic fare like the fireball gun and the hive hand-esque insect gun and the BFG. The only weapon I didn't really like was the grenades because they were kind of awkward to use with this control scheme. I kept hoping for some kind of impact grenade launcher, but there wasn't one. Though if there's one bit of advice I have if you're playing the game, it's use the ammo. If you die, you restart the level with only a pipe and the starting pistol. Those 60 BFG rounds are no use if you die and use them all. The real highlight though is the level design. There's a few times I got lost, but for the most part the levels are varied and well made. Each one seems to have been made with a pistol start in mind too, so if I ever died, the level still felt doable. The game's final stage and ending is fun. I won't spoil too much, but I will say there is a suitably big fight followed by a deliberately abrupt and anticlimactic ending. It's kind of fun. The game is a good challenge, but not too tough if you're familiar with FPS games. I died a few times in my playthrough, mostly on bosses, and while there's lots of levels, I beat the game in about an hour and 15 minutes, which is a good length for a game without saves. If I had a nitpick, it would be the black particles that fly off when you shoot monsters. It makes it seem like there's a blood effect missing, and the monsters make little if any sound, meaning that I'd occasionally have a monster hitting me in the back and not notice until it got a few good hits in. Overall, I really liked Lab. I'll leave a link in the description, and it's well worth giving a go if you have an hour or two and fancy some old school shooting fun. Lab version 3 is a remake of the game in Unity. For the most part it's the same game, but with WASD, mouse aiming, saving and loading, and it's full screen. Restarting a level no longer resets you back to the default pistol. The black particles still exist though, making me think that it's deliberate. To compensate for the player's increased power, enemies have been buffed, though I really couldn't tell the difference. The exception being that enemy projectiles now bounce around. This doesn't work well. Certain enemies like the Mantis and the green flame guys can bring you from health to dead with no real way of taking cover or to prevent damage. I could be doing fine, peek around a corner, and then suddenly the room is full of bouncing projectiles I can't reasonably dodge. The lack of enemy sounds is still a problem as well. I had to resort to exploiting the save feature in the last few levels, something I didn't have to do and in fact couldn't do in the Flash game. One other issue that's more of a nitpick is that your own projectiles also seem a bit bigger than they should be. This was true in the Flash game as well, but with the quicker, more accurate aiming of the Unity version plus the increased difficulty, it meant that it was more noticeable my second time around. Overall though, whichever version you play, you're in for a good time. Both offer their own pros and cons. Given the Flash game plays in a browser, there's no reason not to give it a try. And if you must have mouse control and saving, then there's the Unity version, which is free as well. The credits hint at a version 5, which I hope is a sequel instead of a remake, maybe built from the ground up around mouse controls. That would be cool. But regardless, I look forward to seeing what this guy does next.